Long story short, I realized that if I have to drive, or if I really enjoy the drive and really realize the potential of this vehicle, a cruise control was absolutely mandatory, right?
Hello friends, once again on the AHA Saturday event, and today we have with us Mr. S. N. Nayak, who stays in Chennai and who has been a long-term user of the Nexon EV and the NexCruise, and is himself a technology enthusiast. So welcome Mr. Nayak, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So, welcome sir. So let's begin with something about yourself. Please tell the audience about, what do you do, what's your background, how did you get into EVs, all that.
Certainly. Thank you. It's fantastic to be here. And a little bit about myself. I am an engineer, electronics engineer by education. Professionally, I have worn many hats over the last couple of decades. I started off as a software professional, then got a chance to work in the telecom sector. I was in UK and South Africa working with the telcos there. So I was part of the 3G rollout in South Africa. So I've seen software and telecoms quite closely. And then I quit the corporate world to launch my startup in sometime around 2012. So I was an entrepreneur in the SaaS space for about 5 years, and finally decided to choose marketing as my area of proficiency. So right now I'm a marketer, and so that's in a nutshell about me professionally.
When did you get the NexCruise in your car, and how long you've been using the NexCruise? How many kilometers have you clocked with that?
Sure. All right. So let me tell you about how I discovered the NexCruise first, right? After buying the car, I became a member of a couple of groups. There's the Nexon EV Pan India Telegram group, and then there was the Tamil Nadu group. And I think it was first through YouTube. So obviously there I read a few rumors, if you will, about a cruise control functionality being available. Now, to be honest, coming from a very earlier generation ICE cars, right? So my Corsa did not have a cruise control. I have driven overseas, in the US and in UK and in South Africa. I know those cars did have cruise control, but I never really experienced it all that much, right? However, as I got this vehicle, I started to realize the importance of cruise control, especially when you're going out for long drives, right? That's when, so multiple things kind of coincided. Then somehow on YouTube, so as you are buying the Nexon, or you are about to buy the Nexon, you start to Google about it, right? And you start to get other people's feedback and other people's opinions. So that's when I came across your video of you and Kaushal ji driving to Rajasthan, driving across Rajasthan to Jaisalmer, the Pokhran, etc. Right, and that was quite amazing. So that's how I actually came to know about you and AHA, right? And so even before the NexCruise, the first thing I purchased from AHA was the long charging, the 20-meter charging cable, right, with the thing, etc. So that was the first thing I bought from you guys. And then you started to kind of slowly tease the idea that you were working on a cruise control system, right? I was still kind of on the fence. I wasn't sure if that would be of value or not, because me not having experienced cruise control properly. However, what happened is around October 2020, October 2021, I took a trip from Chennai to Odisha. So that was my first proper long trip. I've driven probably 50-60 kilometers, 100 kilometers, but never longer than that. So that is the first time I realized that a cruise control would be a lifesaver, right? Driving in the Nexon EV, the fact that it does not allow you to turn off regen in principle is fantastic, but in practice it can vary, right, depending upon your circumstances. So you are on the highway and you want to maintain a constant speed. The moment you let go, even if you're in sports mode, the moment you let go of the accelerator, the regen kicks in And we all know that regen is never as efficient as the actual energy consumed, right? Because you consume energy to reach a certain level of kinetic energy, and then you just want to maintain that, right? But the moment you lift off from the accelerator, then the vehicle starts to regen, right? And in order to prevent that from happening, you would have to feather the throttle. Keep your foot on the throttle with just the right amount of pressure so that regen doesn't kick in, but at the same time, you don't want the vehicle to accelerate, right? So you're trying to maintain an equilibrium, which is quite painful, right? There's no other word, right? And so I remember leaving Chennai early in the morning, around 4 a.m. or so, and by 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., my right foot was killing me, absolutely killing me, right? Because it was just trying to feather the throttle, and I tried to come up with some weird workarounds. Like for a brief while, I was actually using my left foot to press the accelerator, to maintain pressure on the accelerator. Not advisable at all, not a sustainable thing to do, but I was getting cramps in my right foot, right? So, and then I figured out a solution, which is using your footwear. So I was wearing a slipper or a sandal, and then I used that to stay on the pedal, on the accelerator pedal, and then using my thumb, I would apply a slight pressure on it, right? So I was basically creating a fulcrum, right? So long story short, I realized that if I have to drive, or if I really enjoy the drive and really realize the potential of this vehicle, a cruise control was absolutely mandatory, right? And at around that same time, you had things were taking shape, and you had already started the pre-orders for the NexCruise. And yeah, that's it. So I realized that was the right thing to do. So I put money where the mind is, and I pre-ordered the NexCruise. And it took a few months, of course, from concept to development. But I think I finally got the NexCruise sometime around March, or not March. No, I got the NexCruise probably around February, right? Around that time frame. Yep.
Very, very nicely articulated. The precise thing about why coast mode and what pains we actually face while keeping the car not enter in the region.
Yep.
Like you put it in a very, very well articulated manner. It actually sums up the entire experience. And as you rightly said, we face such things in a very, very magnified way when we are taking the car for the long drives.
Sure.
And it was the exact same pain point that triggered the even the thought process behind NexCruise. So yes, I'm really happy that it ultimately could turn out the way that it was intended to be. So since February, how long? So yeah, as you shared that you have taken the car from Chennai to Mumbai and back in a span of 7 days with the NexCruise.
Yes.
So please tell us something about that, and also please tell us how many kilometers have you clocked with the NexCruise?
Sure. Yeah, so as I said, I got the NexCruise unit sometime around February, and almost immediately I went to Salem, which is about 350 odd kilometers from Chennai. It was a family trip, and it basically, I got the NexCruise within a day or two. I installed it, and then went to Salem. So that was my first proper drive with that. So that was about 700 kilometers up and down. And talking about the installation, it was pretty easy. The video online that you had posted, and so it probably took me about 10 minutes to install it, even though I was doing it for the first time, right? So the first trip was almost immediately after getting the unit, was about 700 kilometers. Then, as I said, my daily usage is quite low. In fact, most of us are working from home these days, and even when we are going to office, in a hybrid model, we don't really cover so many miles. So probably around 1,000 kilometers or so. And that's when my Mumbai trip came about, right? So I had a few meetings in Mumbai, and I could, of course, fly. That would be the logical thing to do. Any sane person would fly from Chennai to Mumbai. But I was just, obviously I like driving, and I had experienced the delight of driving an EV with a cruise control, right? So I just wanted more, and I realized that this would be a great opportunity. I've got work in Mumbai, and I've got a weekend here and a weekend there, and I might as well just make the most of it, right? So that's what happened. Work and pleasure, combining work and pleasure, if you will. So I started planning for this trip a week or so in advance, and the charging infrastructure is obviously a very, very big factor. but with a combination, I'm having driven the car for a year or so and being part of the communities, I had a fairly good idea of the charging infrastructure. While Tata Power remains the predominant player, there are a bunch of others like Relux and Xeon, etc. So combining all of the players, I was confident that the charging infrastructure was sufficient to support this this journey. I started driving from Chennai on a Friday. And then I knew that the Bangalore route would be the most efficient, but I wanted to experience the roads, etc. So I actually took a slightly longer route, which is from Chennai to Hyderabad via the NH5. And then from Hyderabad to Pune, stopping over at night for both Hyderabad and Pune. And then on Sunday, that's when I reached Mumbai. And then obviously Monday to Thursday, was quite busy with meetings. And then I started driving back from Mumbai on Friday afternoon, and then I took the Bangalore route, and it was a phenomenal drive, and I was able to get back to Chennai on Saturday, on Sunday, early morning Sunday. So while going, the whole traveling time was probably, the whole journey was probably around 72 hours or less than that. I mean, less than 72 hours for sure. But while coming back, I was able to cover it in about 42 hours or so. Because I didn't stop anywhere. So wherever the car would charge, I would take a nap in the car, and then once the car was charged up, I would start driving again.
Oh, I see. You were alone in the whole trip?
Yep.
Okay. Did you plan something special for the charging? Like, did you plan in advance, or you took it as you went along, or how was it?
Okay, so obviously, if you look at so if you go to PlugShare, right, then PlugShare shows you all the different charging points. So I knew that I was never really in risk or really at risk of running out of charge. That being said, there are certain stretches which are very, very long, right, by any standards. For instance, between Chennai and along the NH5, the first fast charger by Tata Power is in a place called Velampalli, right, which is just 30 kilometers further north from Ongole, and the distance from there to Chennai is about 360 or 370 kilometers, right? So that is beyond the reach of the Nexon EV. Now, funnily enough, when I had gone to Odisha in December, in October 2021, and I returned in December 21, I had actually covered a stretch of 340 kilometers on a single charge in the Nexon EV.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And that was before the NexCruise. So basically, I charged at Ongole in the Avas Resort fast charger in Velampalli, and then NH5. And I knew that should things go wrong, I always have your 20-meter extension cable, right? So, desperate times call for desperate measures. So I could always request someone to let me do some slow charging for some time, right? I knew that was the fallback strategy. However, I knew that the vehicle could do, if the gradients are favorable, it could do 300 plus on a single charge, right? So those were some factors that I was aware of. However, so I knew that after Chennai, there's a fast charger in a place called Tada, which is on the national highway. That's about 85 kilometers. So from Tada to Velampalli, that's 270 kilometers. And as all Nexon EV owners will know, there is a certain error a certain percentage of error in the odometer of the Nexon, right? It shows more kilometers than Google Maps or than even the national highway, the NHAI would report. So if it's actually 260, Nexon would show 270, whatever. So 270 kilometers. So that was probably the longest stretch I have done from Tada to Velampalli. And from there on, the chargers were available at intervals of probably 200, 230 to maybe 100 kilometers, right? So from Velampalli, I took I got off the main highway and I took the internal roads. So it was via Adanki, Pidugurla, and then I went to Suryapet, which is on the Vijayawada Hyderabad road. So I charged up there, then I went to Hyderabad. I stayed there overnight. So again, from Hyderabad to Pune, that's a slightly, I would say it's a tricky situation. There are a couple of fast chargers on the way. However, they are in the middle of nowhere, right? There's a fast charger in a I wouldn't even call it a town, right? It's called Sastapur, which is a little finger of Karnataka between Maharashtra, right? So you leave Pune, and then before you get to, you leave Hyderabad, and then before you get to Maharashtra, there's a sliver of Karnataka, and that's a place called Sastapur. and there's SVS tires, which is a fairly large tire outlet, and that's where they have a fast charger, right? It's completely in the middle of nowhere. So if, God forbid, if that charger is down for whatever reason, you are in trouble, right? Because reaching Solapur, and then Solapur does not have any fast chargers. It's only got Type 2 chargers, so not desirable. However, things went as per plan, so I did not have any issues while charging. In fact, that's another comment about the state of our charging infrastructure. When I during my trip to Odisha, I faced many issues with the Tata Power chargers, but things seem to have improved a lot. So I had a fairly error-free charging experience all the way to Mumbai, right? It was a combination of Relux, but mostly Tata Power chargers all the way there. Mumbai, of course, we are spoiled for choices. There are many providers. There's Static and a bunch of other providers. And then on the return journey again, I used ChargeGrid and Tata Power, and then it was mostly Tata Power as well till the time I got to Tamil Nadu, when I used the Relux again at Palikonda. So it's a combination, and the one thing we have is, so right now the infrastructure exists, but there isn't enough redundancy in the system, right? So if something fails, you don't have a backup. So that is still a concern, but yeah, clearly the infrastructure exists, and I was able to complete this trip.
And did you plan any interleaving of fast charging and slow charging for battery health considerations or something?
Yes. So I knew that there were a couple of fast chargers. So in fact, when I charged in Mumbai, after 6 or 7 fast chargers, then when I charged in Mumbai, it was a Type 2 charging overnight, right, to allow the cell balancing to take place. But I think even if we do 10 back-to-back fast chargings, it's not going to irreparably damage your battery. Sure, there will be some degree of degradation, but I don't think it's going to be really detrimental to the health of the battery.
Got it.
Yeah, that's
so essentially there have been some talks in the groups or in circles that if you do more than maybe 4 fast charges, then you might face a critical error when you get to the 5th fast charge. So they're just rumors, that's what you mean, right?
Yes, they are absolutely rumors. I have done 6 fast charges back to back, not all of them to 100% either, right? So see, the critical errors are a combination of many factors. I did encounter critical error and the D2N on my return journey, but that is for a different reason, right? It was not due to fast charger, it was not right after the fast charger. So I think it's a myth. It's definitely a good practice, don't get me wrong. I'm not recommending that we do fast charging all the time, but if you have to, it's not going to be a deal breaker, or it's not going to be a huge challenge.
Understand. Likewise, not charging the car all the way to 100% all the time is also not going to affect it, because there have been talks like the cell balancing happens when car goes from 95 to 100%, and if you don't touch 100% in every few charges, then probably your BMS will go bonkers, and you'll see sudden drops in charge, all of that. So you will face nothing of that.
I do believe there is merit in that school of thought. I have not experienced it personally. So I believe whether you're doing a fast charging or a slow charging, regardless of that, enabling your BMS to balance the cells, that is very important, right? So that is what I experienced when I did a slow charging after multiple fast charges. It took almost 2 hours to go from 95 to 100%. Right, so clearly the BMS was doing something. Maybe the cells were completely out of balance or whatever. So the cell balancing was happening. It took almost 2 hours, right? So yeah, as long as you're able to get up to 100%, probably once in every 6 or 7 charges, it's okay. Right? We need not be afraid. However, your mileage may vary, and clearly people have encountered those errors, so we cannot completely discount it, but I would say let's not be paranoid about it.
Excellent. So then please also share what specific features of NexCruise did you use the most, or you found merit when you went around all this circuit.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you how the NexCruise has become a way of life, right? Now, regardless of whether I'm on the highways or on the city, I so the vehicle is ready, I go to D. Even before I press the accelerator, or even before I release the brakes, right, I press the coast, I go into coast mode. So it is a ritual. I do not drive the car without coast mode. So yes, absolutely, right. I have to see that blue light indicate the blue indicator. For me, that is the real the vehicle is now ready to drive. So the coast mode has become absolutely integral to the way I drive. For the simple reason, whether you're driving in the city or on the highway, the last thing we want is unnecessary wastage of energy in the name of regen, right? We know regen is good, but when you're driving in the city, you see a red light at the traffic 200 meters away, that's when you want regen. Where you don't want regen is you've just taken your foot off the accelerator for whatever reason, right? And you start to lose momentum because it's regen. That is just counterproductive. So, to be honest, the cruise control, I'll talk about how I use the cruise control, but coast mode is absolutely integral. The other modes about like eco and deep eco, I have used them. I know how they work, but I don't use them as often because within the city you have virtually zero range anxiety, and where you're on the highway there are different ways of modulating your speed. So eco mode comes in handy at times, even deep eco sometimes, but coast mode is the most used feature. Now let's talk about cruise control, right? Earlier I was under the impression, or I had this belief that cruise control comes in handy when you reach a certain speed, you've accelerated to a certain speed and you want to maintain that speed, and that is totally true. However, as I spend more time with the car and with the NexCruise fitted, I have started to use cruise control, the cruise mode, as a replacement for the accelerator, right? My right foot does not spend too much time with the accelerator. It's always ready to press the brake wherever required, right? So even if I'm at 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers, I just activate cruise and I gradually increase the speed using the dial. Right now, you can tell me as the creator of this device whether this is the intended use case or not, but honestly, I prefer to accelerate the car using the cruise dial rather than the accelerator pedal. I guess my right foot has become too lazy and it's too spoiled now, right? So yeah, the acceleration is seamless, right? There is no, so as a human being, obviously we can apply variable pressure. Sometimes we can apply a little more pressure and the acceleration can be jerky, but we know when the computer is doing it, it will be a linear acceleration to whatever intended speed it is, right? So yeah, I tend to use the cruise control more often than just the highways. Even when I'm in the city and there is a reasonably good stretch of road which is not packed with traffic, sure, cruise control there as well. But on the highways, as we all know, it is an absolute lifesaver, right? So you get onto the highway when you're clear of traffic and you would be maintaining a steady speed, engage cruise, and then let the dial do all the work and let your left hand do all the work rather than your right foot.
Wow. So yeah, let me share my side of things with the dial driving, so to say. Yeah, of course, I didn't envisage that this will come out to be such a useful thing to feature of the car. But yeah, honestly speaking, even I have got into the bad habit of, I don't know, should we call it bad, or we're spoiled for luxury in a way. That yes, dial driving has come out to be a very, very handy feature, and it grows on you kind of. After a while, you find yourself using only that thing. But yeah, of course, one thing is that the road needs to be relatively less, free of traffic, because we need to let the car manage. The natural region of the car should be able to stop the car in the needed space. So if traffic is too much, bumper to bumper, it doesn't really work.
True.
Right? I think the same thing goes in your experience as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in relatively lesser traffic, even if it is not a highway, so the same experience with me. I'd like to second your experience.
And since you mentioned region, sorry, I'll just we spoke about coast and we spoke about the cruise feature. what I really love about coast is that it does not deprive you of region, right? It does
Mm-hmm.
not. That is something which I would like all our listeners to understand, that coast is not something that kills region completely. It kills region when you don't want it. So now when I have to, as I said, I'm coasting at probably 30 or 40 or 50 kilometers depending upon within the city, and I see a traffic a red light, or it's just turning orange. I just have to tap the brake. I don't stand on the brake. I don't apply sustained pressure on the brake. I just tap it and let go of the brake instantly. That's when coast is cancelled and the natural region of the car kicks in, right? And then the car very gently slows to a halt, or slows down, just the way it would have in the absence of a coast mode, or even without the NexCruise. The moment you take your foot off the accelerator, the vehicle slows down. The exact same thing happens the moment you just tap on the brakes. So that is actually a very very intelligent thing to do. I'm sure when you were creating the specs for this device, and when you were kind of determining how the device should behave, you could have said, you know what, we're just going to stop region completely and let the brake pressure and the brake drums do all of the work. In fact, if you think ahead, the brake drum wear on the Nexon, or even the disc wear on the Nexon would be much lower, because a lot of the braking is done by the regen mechanism, right? Unless you're doing panic braking. So I just wanted to mention that what makes coasts all the more intuitive, or all the more better, is not only does it let you glide when you need to, but it also slows down through regen when you want to slow down.
Excellent. In fact, thanks for clarifying it from a user's perspective. And let me also share some behind the scenes story about the coast mode. So, coast is needed. That was a pretty obvious thing before NexCruise. So, in fact, the first software release that we did had exactly that. Like, the coast would simply kill off region, but only a few days of usage made it very obvious that we are not really benefiting from the region if we are killing the region altogether, because when we need region, it's the best thing to happen with the car. So the second release came out, and then it was like still it was not tapping the brake and the accelerator to turn off and on the region, but it was more like when you release, when you press the brake, the regen starts happening, and when you release the brake, the regen stops happening.
Oh, okay.
So it was, but that was still, when you would let go of the brake, you would feel a certain pull from the car when the regen
Yes.
when the regen turned off.
Yes.
No, there was no actual pull, but intuitively it felt like the car is pulling it, trying to accelerate forward, because regen is kind of psyched in our intuition. So then this final thing came up, and I believe it is not there at all in any of the cars inherently, no matter what the budget of the car, that the coast and the regen are very very seamlessly blended together, and this is something like a smart coasting or something. Let's see how to present it properly to the customers, but yeah, technically even I find it, I love it the way it has turned out.
Yep.
So it was not on the drawing board, it came out through iterations and through the usage of the car. And the good part is that we can tweak the NexCruise and deliver the benefit through software updates. So this is something very essential that I find, and I feel really delighted that we decided to have OTA updates for the NexCruise right from the get-go, because this is a very handy way for us to keep delivering benefits to the users and upgrades. So that's how. So great, SN. Thanks for putting it so nicely, the selective region. Great. What will
Yeah,
you like to tell the people who are worried about the warranty of the car being void?
absolutely. Yeah, you're right. It is a risk, but I would like to say it's a calculated risk, right? We drive, we buy a car, obviously to go from point A to point B. In case of an electric vehicle, we want to save the planet as we are going from point A to point B. But once you have met all of these basic needs, right? If you talk about Maslow's pyramid and you are taking care of the base needs, right? Then there is um, enjoyment, right? Most of us who drive cars do so because we enjoy driving. That is, a common thread across my. And for me, the I felt that it was an almost criminal oversight from Tata that they gave us this fantastic vehicle and then left that one little thorn in our flesh, which was a constant deterrent, right? It was literally a thorn in your flesh that prevented you from enjoying the car. And this is a sentiment I have heard being echoed by many people, right? That we are not able to enjoy the car because we have to be constantly it's a cognitive load, where a certain part of your brain is constantly focused on keeping the right foot on the accelerator so that you are driving the car optimally. We already know that as EV drivers, we have to keep an eye on the watt hour per kilometer, and we have to watch that curve so that it stays as flat as possible. There's already a lot of work happening, right? But I just felt that not being able to coast, right? Forget cruise control. I want to focus on coast because that is the efficiency killer, the experience killer, right? So I just felt that was a criminal oversight on part of Tata not to provide this, right? So now, what choices do we have, right? Had NexCruise not come along or something, I believe there are a few other aftermarket cruise systems which are also being developed. Had that not come along, we would have accepted life and we would have moved on, right? But knowing that this thing was an option, and the fact that you have been so transparent in the whole conceptualization to manufacture of this product, right? And there was a time when you said in fact, I think you either did a recall of some units or you actually postponed the rollout because you knew there was some issues, right? So and having a basic understanding of the system, I will before NexCruise was rolled out, I honestly was a little apprehensive about how it would be installed, right? But once it was all clear that this is literally a plug and play system, sure, you have to plug it in multiple places. It's not a trivial exercise. It's a slightly involved exercise, but it is not tampering with any of the vehicle's components, right? So that gave me a lot of
Basically,
confidence.
it's a reversible process.
Yes, absolutely. It is a reversible process. And I'll be honest, since the day I installed the cruise control and the NexCruise, and today, I have taken the car to the service center once. And when I did that, I wanted to be err on the safer side. So I removed the NexCruise system, right? I have no shame in admitting that I removed the NexCruise system. I kept it aside, took the car to the service center, because who knows how people will react to it. So yes, there is a risk, but I believe the reward far outweighs the risk. Do I really want to live in fear and not enjoy the car, right? Or enjoy the car and we'll see how it goes, right? So that's the path I took, and this is something which I have been not really advocating. I mean, I tell people about the NexCruise. Many people are aware of the NexCruise, but whenever the conversations come, start around avoiding of the warranty, I simply say, look, it's a calculated decision you have to take, right? Do you really want to keep driving the vehicle and compromise on your happiness, or do you want to take a calculated risk? And I know you have mentioned that you've been in discussions with the Tata folks, and uh, we are not sure of how those discussions are progressing, etc. Um, but I just believe that it was the right thing to do. It is a calculated gamble, but it is one that is totally worth taking if we do the rewards and risk balance. I believe it is the right thing to do.
Great. So then please share something about the wish list for NexCruise. We've already spoken about how it's already helping and how it's delighting us as a user of the NexCruise. But please, your inputs will be great for the future of NexCruise, and probably we may even end up delivering the features. So what will be your wish list for the future for NexCruise?
Sure. I think now that the core module is working quite well, right? We can look at adding some extra benefits, but also in terms of analytics, right? Because we are all data driven people, and we look at the Z Connect app and the telemetry, etc. So it would be great if we could see some kind of NexCruise has helped you save this much energy, whatever, right? If we can get some kind of how many kilometers have we driven with cruise engaged, right? So those are some, I'm sure that data can be obtained from the NexCruise system, from your data buses, etc. So if we can get some kind of analytics, that would be an experience booster, right? It may not materially change the way we use the system, but it's going to give us some kind of information, etc. I think right now, in terms of adding new features to the core system, I don't have a direct answer for you. There honestly hasn't been anything that I said, oh, I wish the NexCruise did that, right? Or at least I have not thought about it. I've not felt that gap as strongly so that I would put it as a feature request. Sure, there's room for improvement, right? Definitely, incremental improvement, etc., etc. I initially placed my LED strip in your recommended location, which is just above the 2 dials, right? Then I just, I found that place getting a little cluttered, so I have moved it to my to my instrument display, right, where we have our dashboard. Sorry, where we have the electronic display. I've actually kept it flat there because I'm not able to see the LEDs directly, but then the reflection of the LEDs on the plastic panel. Yeah, that is good enough. So there's definitely room for incremental improvement, but in terms of the core feature set, I think we are very, very well positioned in terms of what the application or what this unit offers right now. But yes, I think you've built a great platform, and then there's an opportunity to add more features in terms of experience enhancing features.
Got it. Great. So it's been a wonderful discussion, SN, and this data-driven analytics or value additions, which can bring more aha moments to the user. This definitely is a great input, and we are going to process this for sure. Sooner or later, let's see when we can take it up, but this is also in our wish list already. And this is also heartening to note that you as an end user are delighted by the features that are already there, and you find it complete. That's something that really is a heartening thing to note. And well, that brings us to the end of this discussion. So let me close this by thanking you on behalf of the entire AHA family, and we are going to spread the word to the community. We are going to share these experiences onward. And another great thing is that we are already connected over the Telegram group, so users can directly connect to you on the NexCruise group as well as the Pan India Nexon EV owners group, right?
Absolutely.
So with this, this brings us to the end of this program, and please stay tuned for more. And this is me and Mr. SN Nayak signing off. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.